In this video, I'm consulting a fellow lead gen killer who's already generating hundreds of thousands of dollars for his ecom client, but still wants to take it up a notch. So we're diving into an ecom lead qualification workflow I built for him top to bottom so he can avoid time wasters and irrelevant contacts, clogging pipeline, and burning domains. We'll cover how to prompt AI with live step-by-step examples, how to qualify more ecom businesses so you can book more calls, increase offer relevancy, find most reviewed products, and figure out if a store even has money in the first place. Grab a coffee. This is an ecom list building deep dive. And if you love the Clay template, you can pick it up for your business using the link in the description. So from my understanding, you're basically just looking to make sure that leads are qualified from 2 points of view. One, are they allowed on TikTok Shop? And two, do they have money? And then everything else is sort of just little things that are going to help you make your outreach a little bit more relevant in certain cases. I imagine also communicate the value proposition of your client a bit better. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, recently with the new campaigns I've been launching, results have definitely been dropping, and I find like a lot of the positive responses that are coming in are unqualified. Like so I just can't even book them in, and that's obviously just a waste, you know?
Yeah, not best case scenario for sure, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's obviously a couple different problems that I put on this document. I'm going through it right now again. Just like in general, kind of that dilemma of like making the lead list more narrow to improve the results, but still maximizing the TAM. Like that's
Yes.
kind of the big question at hand.
So just want to clarify, have you been doing waterfall enrichment? Have
Yeah,
you been
yeah.
doing like bounce band,
Yeah, I
catch
was using
all?
like NoPlay before, and doing that definitely helped me with that. The only thing I found is recently I go through some of the positive responses, and sometimes it doesn't match the data. Like sometimes and I assume it could be one of the tools like Prospeo that's giving me like false data, or it could be, where it's just like the website doesn't match the actual company, if that makes sense, or the email doesn't match the actual company. So it's just like false data.
That's interesting. Hmm.
It's like it's not too like it's 1%, less than 1% wrong.
Yeah, I haven't really experienced that. The only times I've experienced mismatched data is when going after personal emails, because then you just can't
Yeah,
100% verify that it's connected to that website. Like I've had instances where I've made the mistake and corrected it after, but I've gotten like the email of someone leaving a review, and for some reason they put their email in a review, and I accidentally scraped that off like a website
yeah,
or a database. So I wouldn't worry too heavily if it's not happening often.
yeah. It's not too big.
Because
The
I
others,
think, go ahead.
I was just saying, I guess the other small like problem that I'm having is like the previous list that I was building in Clay, it was literally swapping some of the rows. Have you ever experienced that? Like it wasn't all of it, but every now and then it'd be like just like the row above's company name is in the row below with like a different email, if that makes sense.
I've I've never experienced that, to be honest,
Right.
inside Clay. I would bounce that off of support because that straight up just shouldn't happen. Like
Yeah.
I can't find a way to make, like, early days before I figured out how to use like write to table and look up multiple row and tables to make certain things happen inside campaigns. I always was upset that I couldn't pull like the name of an employee of the same company from a row right below them to be like call out that employee's name, right? Not sure if you or him are the best person to
Yeah.
talk to, kind of thing. That's
Yeah.
obviously doable with other features, but yeah, there's no way I could find out to make rows communicate with each other. You can only really make column level communicate with one another and only communicate rows across tables. So that's got to be a
Anyways,
glitch. I
it's
would just
not the
bounce
end
it
of the
off
world.
them.
That's like
Yeah.
small stuff that I need to fix with, yeah, their customer support, like you said, for sure.
So what I went ahead and did is I based off your table. So the problems I had with your table, and this might be like a good heuristic kind of learning experience for you as you move to other clients, potentially new niches, like you said at the start of the call, is try to make sure that when you're doing any sort of AI task, try to make it so that it's single focused. So narrow. You want results to be narrow because the narrower the result that you need, the less hallucinations that are likely to occur. So with that in mind, when I was going through yours, like the way you were classifying, let's say, I believe looking back, an e-commerce, getting it to classify whether a brand is e-commerce or not. And then also I think you're trying to make it so it classifies, let's see, alcohol, if they're alcohol or not. It
Yeah, I
does
was like
not.
trying to combine
So yeah.
different qualifications within one for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so this does not include service-based. So one of the things I like to do
It was a messy
is
prompt that I know. It was very messy.
I think you did a great job of defining what a e-commerce business is to you. One of the things that you can do to get a little bit more particular is actually call out the naming conventions of these web pages and how and what like the footer layout of a website is for an e-commerce brand. So basically across industries, footers change a ton. Like in e-commerce, you're almost every single brand basically is going to have shipping, returns, return/exchanges, online shipping, online orders, right? There's going to be a certain subset of footer items that you can include in this prompt. And I would go into detail about the different ways that those footer items can basically present themselves. I don't know how accurate this has been for you, but I imagine it's not been 100% based on what you mentioned in terms of qualifying and not qualifying leads. Is that correct?
Yeah, it hasn't been too accurate, and it's just difficult to like prompt it to yeah take out some of those brands where it would technically be e-commerce brands, but it's majority not. So it's like possibly a donut shop that because I filter normally by employee count, a donut shop that's got or franchise or like combination of franchises that have like they're selling clothes as well on the website, if that makes sense. But like majority of the company is the actual donut shop, you know?
Amazing. So what I would try is getting very specific about the types of like you have types of businesses here, but not just types of businesses. What those businesses actually have on their website is going to help you a lot more than classifying these businesses. Because basically what you're making AI do now in terms of extra steps is it has to now go through all of this. And if it doesn't find these things, it has to make a decision about this. And before it makes a decision about this, it has to be like, what's a gym? What is a coaching program? What is a website with courses? And it has to ask itself and dig into its large language model and find another spot to look in. So the way I like to think about AI is the more spots you're making it look in its neural network, the higher the chance of it missing the perfect spot and hitting over here. Does that kind of make sense? So
Yeah.
instead of doing this, what I would do is I would turn it into a multi-step prompt. So I would have a prompt that classifies a company as e-commerce, but instead of classifying it as e-commerce, get it to classify it as a percentage of e-commerce. So how close do you think this is to a perfect e-commerce business? And you would have, a scale of maybe 0 to 100. And then once that output happens, anything below 90%, you can have a secondary prompt to get it to classify whether or not it's one of these businesses. And I don't know, give me a gym. Do you have a gym that makes sense to look up here? Maybe LA Fitness?
Sure, yeah, that works, I guess.
Perfect. So like if you go to a gym's website, and this is going to stand true for a few of these niches that you mentioned here, you're going to have a tab that almost always exists at these companies, which is locations. So if a company has a locations tab, /locations, /find a club, right? /find a location, all of these UTM structures. And remember to play off UTM structures because Claygen is a AI model that is searching the web. So it actually uses these structures as it navigates the web. So if you instead said websites that are gyms, coaching courses, consultations, if instead you said exclude websites that have a locations tab where they list multiple addresses, right? So you can see here, locations tab,
No, that
it
makes
has
complete
postal
sense.
codes, right? Search mechanism, remove websites that have classes, that have a coaching page, that have here's a really good one, a calendar booking form, right? An e-commerce store is never going to have this. It has absolutely no overlap with an e-commerce store. And basically what you have to do when prompting AI is take care of the initial research on what these websites are and how they present. And then you give AI that initial research so it can take action on it over 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 businesses for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So like in that example, because that's a great example, if they have locations within their page, how would you prompt a agent to remove those brands? Like,
Yeah, so I would literally say if the website has a locations tab, and then I would say, so let's open up a doc here. That way I'm not changing the prompt that we have. That's your raw prompt, so we can keep reviewing those. But if I wanted to prompt at locations, like I would just be like, if a company website has a locations tab, then you are to disqualify them, or you are to output false, or output, right? Whatever output you want, give it a standardized response. So let's say false here. And then let's say you can identify whether or not a company website has one of these tabs by looking for the following. And I'll give you this doc as well, so don't worry about that. And then I would give it a list of all the things it can find. Check the UTM parameters. Check UTM parameters for any of the following markers. Website / and then I would say find a brand. Website / find a location. Website / location, right? I would outline all of that. And then I would give it a second thing that it might look for. Check the footer for locations or retail locations. If it has those as well, it would classify as false. And let's look at a few other things that we might want to look into this. Here's a great one: schedule a tour. Join language like join now. Check call to actions to see if call to actions have shop versus things like join now, book a call, right?
Yeah.
What else do we have here? And really, you can find most of this in the footer of these websites. That's kind of the beauty of it.
No, that makes complete sense.
Great one. Find a club is a really good one. Anytime they have a find a, usually makes a huge difference. And you would basically just lay this out, a certain subset, and you would know how much information you need to provide. To be honest, I would imagine for this particular prompt, all you would need is to lay out these markers, and then you would move on to another set of markers that may be for another type of brand in this list that you created inside your prompt. So let's look at some of these other ones. So the beauty of this is that across gyms, coaching, courses, consultations, spas, or salons, you're going to be able to classify these businesses super easily just with that location-based prompt, right? And that book a call-based prompt. One other thing you can do is check for site technologies, right? So you have Shopify, right? That's one. Mm-hmm. But a lot of these companies, especially spas or salons, are going to use a booking software. And you can basically use, because you're going through Apollo and it gives you that output of technologies in a lump sum, what you can do is you can keep that technologies tab and maybe save yourself an AI prompt and get it to go true or false, right? With a formula, true or false. Does this technology tab contain any of the following variables? Mind body. That's a spa booking software. You would cut out spas and gyms out the wazoo with that one, right? Calendly, cal.com, right? And just go down the list of the most popular softwares.
So with this specific list that I made, it was targeting food and beverage specifically, and the list was made from Apollo. And the problem I had specifically with this one compared to previous, like when I was targeting skincare or supplements, is with food and beverage, there's a lot of brands that had a decent employee count. It wasn't like the revenue on the store wasn't high, if that makes sense.
So were these like maybe funded businesses in that case?
That and also just like retail.
Yeah. So the way you can identify revenue, and I built this out for you already, actually. I had some old stuff lying around that I was able to just manipulate a bit. Awesome. So one of the things you can do to identify revenue, it's a bit of a convoluted process, which is why I just decided to give it to you. Basically, what's happening in this table, I just took a few brands as examples, and we have e-commerce store classification prompt running. And I just wanted to double check that I was successfully identifying food and beverage brands by throwing one in quickly. But basically what this prompt is going to do is it's going to identify the main basically buckets of e-commerce stores for you. And by having these main buckets of e-commerce stores, one, you can use more applicable case studies, which is fantastic for you, right? You can say, I helped a consumer goods brand rather than a ecom brand, and make things more relevant. But two, what it lets you do is actually make assumptions about their conversion rate, because conversion rates tend to have averages that hold true roughly across industry buckets more accurately than just across what the store is or the entire industry itself. So with this conversion rate, we can identify a couple things. We can identify how much money they might be making based off website traffic and average order value. But how do we find average order value? There's a few ways. In order to find average order volume, you can do two things. You can take their best-selling product, which I've filtered for roughly here. You can take the cost of that, and you're basically multiplying that by like 1.2 or 1.3, or you're multiplying that by a certain number of items. And with that average cost that's now created with number of items as well as price of items, you get a rough average order value. That's the convoluted way. The easier way to do it, but you're not going to get every store, unfortunately, is you're going to take the shipping, their free shipping banner, anywhere on the website where they mention the free shipping about, basically take whatever the cost of free shipping is and minus it by like 5%, and that's their average order value. They're basically trying to exceed their average order value slightly with the exchange of free shipping. That's basically what every brand is doing. They're basing it off their average order value. With that, here's the formula that you can do. And I'm just going to show you the formula quickly, and then I'll pause and let you ask questions. Let me just find it here. So I'll tell you how we pull out organic traffic data as well. I have a cheap way of pulling this, but
that's what I'm like most interested in, to be honest.
Yeah, I figured you would be, for sure. So yeah, basically it's a quick prompt here. We're doing these standard price inputs. I'm giving it multiple prices just in case in certain cases, certain brands do not have prices available. And it's basing the average order value off of these common items that we find through Google Shopping. And then if the price is over 100, we have a different formula. If the price is under 100, we have another formula. We get average order value. And then out the other end, we get estimated monthly revenue based on monthly website traffic. And you can see that here, okay?
Yeah.
So how do we get monthly website traffic? So there's two ways. So the first way is free. Basically, it's just going to cost you the cost of a mini Claygent, so basically nothing. And this is going to work for any reasonably sized brand, basically. Any known brand, any brand that's listed on Crunchbase, you're going to be able to get this data for free. And the way you do that, let's see if I have the formula over here. Sorry, this has become a very long table. Right here.
Crunchbase, I feel like I don't know, a lot of the companies I'm targeting right now wouldn't be like funded. They're not like that big.
So Crunchbase holds hundreds of thousands of unfunded companies, hundreds of thousands of unfunded companies. Any company can self-list on Crunchbase. And the reason they do is to become more legitimate to companies they would wish to partner with. Okay. So you can see all these businesses are actually on Crunchbase right here. And like most of them, especially like Alo Yoga is in a way, and Outdoor Voices and Rothy's, they're not huge brands, to be honest. So here's the formula. You take crunchbase.com, you take the organization, and you take the company name. You then replace spaces and special characters in the company name with dashes and remove all capitals. And this will basically get you 90% of the company profiles that a company may have. Okay? The key is that you want to use the full company name. Do not use a shortened or normalized company name. And this formula basically creates their Crunchbase link because they have uniform UTM parameters. And from there, you're literally just telling this prompt here to extract the monthly visits data on the page. The second thing you can do actually is extract how fast their company is growing. So say you had a certain subset of companies that were below your revenue markers, but you see that they've grown by 80% in the last month. You could be the first to contact these companies once they actually are a qualified company before everyone else, by simply putting those companies on the back burner, putting them in a separate list, and then setting a task in your calendar to click run again and see that they grew another 80%. And you're like, fuck yeah, I'm going to be the first person to give these guys whatever, TikTok shop.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So that's one way. Let me give you the second way that is also very, very cheap, like fractions of a cent, okay?
Is it SerperDev?
No. It's not SerperDev.
Is
That's
that
for
for
Google
the
Shopping. That's for
okay,
Google
okay.
Shopping. Okay.
Is
And
that not
so
used for like the actual product name that I could use?
so SerperDev's
Anyway,
going to
we'll
be
get to that
cheaper than
later.
AI.
Something here in the
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah.
So the reason I use SerperDev is because it's far cheaper than AI. Far cheaper for getting product name and far more accurate. So the problem with using Claygent for these product names is that there's so many SKUs for Claygent to surf through and identify review data on that it's almost never going to get you their top selling product. Whereas with SerperDev and Google Shopping, you're basically pulling the exact products that these people are advertising when people look up their site on Google, which is generally a product that they want sold a lot. And then that's not even to mention that when you use Claygent, if Claygent struggles to find a product, they might pull something from Amazon and it could be unrelated in certain cases,
Yeah.
right? So this
Yeah,
is just
absolutely.
guarantee of accuracy is the way I would describe it. But we'll go through that second. First, I want to
Okay,
run
cool.
you through the API Fi actor that you can use. And I've left it in here. You would just have to connect your API Fi account and run it through the backend. And this actor is relatively cheap as well. So this is actually just going to let you scrape similar web directly. $19 a month plus usage. The usage comes down to like point, let's see the run I ran. It was like point, yeah. So look, 1/10, right? 1/10 of a
And
cent.
similar web, like I've been using it today actually as well, just manually though. Are they, would you say, like pretty accurate? Yeah.
Yeah, similar web is pretty darn accurate. If you notice any issues, so the thing is that like you're never going to get 100% accurate with any of these tools because it's not your
Yeah.
website. Your margin of error is probably anywhere from 10 to 20% up or down. So what I would recommend is just take into account that our margin of error with your output, right? So say your qualification is now 10% higher than seven figures, right? So yeah, this did 3 requests, so 3 websites for 1/10 of a cent. So extremely cheap, probably again about
Yeah.
as cheap as Claygent, if not cheaper, depending on the
No, that'll
request.
work extremely well. Yeah.
Yeah, and the beauty of this is that it's going to connect directly into your Clay table, so you'll be able to run it. So what I would recommend doing is just do this as a formula-based run, and you'll say first step, let's try to get organic traffic from Crunchbase, and then API Fi would be right next to it, and you would say Crunchbase returned no data found, right, as your standard couldn't find anything output, and run. And then it would run for the remainder of the data for you. Okay?
And that's just what to save like money on the
Yeah, because I think this is
credits.
marginally cheaper. Yeah, so this comes out to it was 001 before, right? 001. So
Yeah.
actually, dude, your API Fi run, maybe it depends on the website. I'm not 100% sure, but your API Fi run would actually be cheaper. So you can just
Yeah,
run
I'll
with that.
probably just stick to that to be honest. Yeah. I
Amazing.
mean,
Okay, perfect. So you can run with the API Fi.
as long as it gets like most of the data, which it will, like, and obviously Crunchbase,
Oh,
I
dude, it
feel
gets you so much. Like, let me
the
let me
data.
see if we can actually go through the results here. It gets you, from what I remember, runs, builds, marring. Where can I see my outputs? Should be able to click here, no? Oh, it's making me download them. Okay, fair enough. CSV. So let's just quickly open that. And actually, let me make sure I open that in Sheets, or else it's not going to work properly.
Coming back in a moment.
Yeah, no worries.
I just need my nicotine bad.
And I'm very fortunate. I managed not to develop too many vices outside of coffee.
That's good. Yeah, I go through a pack of these a day. It's terrible.
Is it like what's that called? They're like nicotine pouches or whatever.
It's Thunder Frosted. It's called like snus or nicotine
Snus,
pouches,
yes.
I
I
guess.
thought it
Yeah.
was snoo, snus. Yeah, that's
No, I think some
it's a
people
very
call it.
like Scandinavian thing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, all
Hmm.
those European places like they're
Yeah, I
heavy
used to
on it.
work with a lot of Swedes when I was working in nuclear power plant. They're big on nuclear. They work around the world, and actually, they should be working near you in South Africa. You guys have a nuclear plant down there, don't you?
Somewhere, but I don't know where.
It looks, dude, your nuclear plant is like the nightmare plant, actually. Like everyone I talked to in
Already.
nuclear was like, it's the last place you want to work because it's built like a prison. They actually have like your living spaces on the site. So you're basically always at work 24/7. And then
That makes
all my
sense. Yeah, I
buddies
can
are
imagine
like,
that.
other than the beaches, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, no, the working conditions here in general just aren't great.
But yeah,
Yeah,
dude,
that makes
look at all this information it's actually going to output for you. And dude, I forgot to check the math on this actor because I usually just go the ClayGen route for things to make my tables a little less complicated if I ever have to remake them. But yeah, dude, you're getting their specific rankings. You're getting their descriptions from their SEO descriptions, which, to be honest, dude, SEO descriptions can be a way more accurate way for you to identify if it's an e-commerce brand, by the way, and cheaper, because you're going to be able to take action on this data without using ClayGen. You'll just be using AI, right?
Yeah, that makes
Right?
sense.
Way
I mean,
less information to take in.
I still get SEO like from, well, I have SEO in my Clay table right now. Is that not from Apollo?
Yeah, you get it from Apollo. Apollos can be old though, right? This will give you the most
Okay.
up-to-date description, which people tend to change that description pretty regularly if they're an active business. So that could be helpful for you to fill in the blanks on the
Yeah.
ones Apollo is missing as well. And
Okay.
then you've got estimated monthly
Perfect.
traffic. I think it'll actually tell you which visits come from paid visits. And it actually gives you 3 months of monthly traffic, dude, which is fantastic,
That's awesome.
as opposed to one.
That is actually
So-
big, yeah.
right? So they have a history of revenue, right? They're not just starting to make revenue in certain
Very true.
cases. It'll tell you where their traffic's coming from as well, which can help a ton with how you target your ad, or like target your email copy, right? Like, say you're looking to help people attract TikTok shop users in Great Britain versus Canada. I assume there's going to be different things that the market resonates with. You're going to have to maybe say chips instead of fries in your ads, right? To relate to the audience. I don't know. But yeah, a lot of useful information here, basically.
Yeah, that looks good. That'll
Yeah,
definitely be a massive
it just keeps going too. Like, you can see how much is direct, how much is mail, how much is paid referrals. I believe it'll tell you search. Yep, social. So you can see if their social media is something they're getting a lot of traffic from. That could be a call out. Hey, look, I noticed you're only getting blank. This bigger brand is getting 10 times as much social traffic. Do you think you might not be taking advantage of TikTok to the best of your ability right now?
It's a good idea.
Really just problem call outs might be available as a result of that to test. But yeah,
No,
pause
that would
there.
also- yeah. Like I
Does
said,
that
it's
make
literally-
sense?
Makes complete sense. Like right now, it's like I go through certain lists and it's like every fifth prospect, like it's only every fifth prospect that's like properly qualified. So it's like just I'm gonna have to decrease the volume I'm sending, and obviously it's just I'm gonna have more qualified leads there. So
Can I
it's
make
worth
a
it.
recommendation to you as well? And you might already be doing this. I just know a lot of people tend not to.
Yeah.
Consider taking the time to turn off email enrichment inside of your saved list for Apollo, and just pull these lists without emails to start. Then you're not paying export Apollo for these emails originally, and you can just run them through the qualification, then throw them back into Apollo before you export, right? Throw them back
That
into
makes sense,
Apollo.
but I feel like I'm still at like a low enough volume where it's just not really worth it to save like a couple bucks here and there on a list.
Oh, okay. No worries. I wasn't sure the volume you're doing.
I'm not focusing, like I don't feel like I'm spending so much on like the enrichments and like AI.
Okay.
So it's more about doing the right thing the simplest way right now.
You just mentioned 1 in 5, and for me, like, even just like
Sorry, yeah,
one of my
maybe I'm
clients, I'm
exaggerating.
doing like 100,000 emails a month. I'm not willing
Yeah.
to pay for 80,000 emails that I don't actually use.
Yeah, maybe that was exaggeration. Maybe it's just I'll see if it's a problem I
Yeah,
face,
just
then-
take a look at it. That can be a good way to save some money. A lot of people forget that you can turn off the email setting in your saved list, so you can save a list and say, I don't want the email in this list. Do not enrich it. If you go to your settings and filters in Apollo.
Yeah. I'll have a
Okay,
look.
perfect. So that's basically covered. Let's circle back to the tables. We've gone through website traffic, how you can turn website traffic into average order value. You're going to have these exact prompts because I'm going to give you this table. You can basically work off this table as
Awesome.
your baseline instead. Yeah, we have a prompt running for free shipping. You can see free shipping isn't something that you get every time because not every website runs it. So you could start here and use this for your rough average order value estimate, and then basically go from there. And then, yeah, maybe I'll run you through what Serper Dev entails. Okay.
Yeah, I actually like when you mentioned it, or you also mentioned in that YouTube video, but I don't know, the video was a little bit unclear just because it was a bit blurry as well. But I've like tried using SerperDev, I just didn't know how to integrate it with Clay effectively.
You haven't set up Serper Dev yet? Maybe in your...
Yeah, no, I just haven't like I like started a subscription there, but I haven't used it yet.
Yeah, you basically just put in the domain of the company. That's all you need. And then what SerperDev's going to pull for you is basically the Google shopping information. So what it's getting here is the link to the exact product for you. It's getting you the rating, and it's getting you the rating count. And then what you have to watch out for anytime you do these pulls is third-party stores selling the products for them. They're retailers, right? So the way you filter out retailers is that you just add a object filter that will only pull, right? We're filtering by the link. It will only pull this Google shopping information if the domain exists in the information. So what does that mean? If you go here again, you can see there's a variable called link. If this link does not match glossier.com, right, our domain over here, then it will not convert that into this column, the filtered column, right? So a little tutorial on filtered objects
within the actual template as well, just like how you set it up.
Again, it's all in the template, and to set it up, I'll quickly run through it as well because you're going to have this video. So anytime you want to set up a filter of any sort, you just have to look at the exact language that they use inside of this inside of the cell. Okay, so the original cell has the same language here. You can see link, price, title. Make sure to the capitalization, you say that you want to filter by this column. You have to use its language, and we'll make one really quickly. So let's filter off price. You type in filter list of objects, and you would say array of objects, and you would go slash shopping. So Serper shopping. You would say insert all 20 items under the shopping. Let's say filter by price. And let's do a filter mode contains. And let's just say the price has to contain 16. And we'll hit save, and we'll hit run rows. And this should pop out only items that equal $16. And let's see what happens. Cool. So here we go. So now we have all the items that equal $16, for instance. And it can do that for anything. If you only want, let's say, I don't know, if you only want their items that are 15 milliliters, say you're shipping 15 million milliliter packaging or something, you're a manufacturer, I don't know. If you only want items that where delivery says not free shipping, right? Well, why don't you have free shipping? Well, here's how we can help you. I don't know. There's 100 ways to use it. How you use data is up to you, but
as well.
But fairly easy, right?
Yeah.
It
doesn't seem too bad.
So the last thing you wanted to know is how to get the best selling product, right? So let's quickly run through that.
From what I understand, like it's pretty hard to get the best selling product, but you can get like the most reviewed product.
Yeah. So the most reviewed product, maybe it's not the best selling product per se, but it's pretty damn close, basically.
It's just like actually normalizing that name is like the tricky part, just for it to like make sense over 90% of the time, you know?
Yeah. So when you do name normalization, can you walk me through the process you're using? Is that in your table as well? I don't think I saw it.
I don't even have Clay up here, but
I'm looking now.
I think I just like kind of copied someone else's prompt.
Product normalization. So let's see what you have here. Yeah. So this is another big mistake in the way, and it's the same mistake in the way you're going about using AI. So you need to give AI a very clear, rigid goal. Very clear, rigid goal for output. And the way you do that is you treat it as a tool to fill in the blanks. So when you want a name to be normalized in a certain way, you need to have a goal length, right? It needs to be a certain length. You need to tell it what you want included in the name. So we could say, let me give you an example. If product name, featured product result, contains / company name, right? Include company name, right?
Yeah.
So that's one way you can do it. So you want it to say the Gymshark yoga pants, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So that's one way. And then you make sure this is toggled on, actually, because you want to use that, and it should always be available. If you have a variable that isn't always available, you toggle this off. Okay. So not every company has this variable. You just need to toggle this off and it'll still run. Okay. So then you need to set a goal for the length. So let's say keep it to 3 to 5 words, right? So now you're making sure the output has restraint. Then you need to tell it how the output has to be grammatically. So how do we get an output to be in a certain way grammatically? you construct a sentence where it has to fill in the blanks. You need
Okay.
to fill.
I think I tried adding this as well. For some reason, like Claire just wouldn't save it. I don't know. It was strange.
It wasn't saving it?
Yeah,
Weird.
it was every time it was like using the old one when I try to save it and try to run it. I don't know. It was strange. Yeah,
Well, I'm sure it'll update eventually and we'll get going. But yeah, this would be the last step. Use it in this, like this sentence. Give it this sentence. So what's the sentence we want? Like, do you off the top of your head, how do you want this to appear?
have you guys tried selling X on TikTok Shop?
Okay. Have you guys tried selling
Like just top of mind. That's probably not the exact
your
top.
output, product normalization output? You need to fill in the blanks. I should say you need to fill in the section product normalization in this output. So be very specific. So we'll say product normalization. Have you guys tried selling product normalization on TikTok Shop? Amazing. I really like that. That's a good simple poke the bear call out. And yeah, I would personally basically run with that. So I threw in some of these brands here. It doesn't look like we'll have product featured result in this, but let's actually go ahead and just make this. So let's go over to my table and add this in. We have highest rated product here. We took the first 5 letters of it. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to take the filtered object over here. The first filtered object over here are their top rated products that contain that information. And we'll add that to the prompt. So add enrichment, AI.
And the way I look at it as well is like, if I'm able to get, like, some of it's not going to be great, but if 10% of it is worse and like 50% of it is like the same, the reply rates, and then like 40% of it is like significantly better and more personalized, it's like in positive, right? So that's like the way I'm looking at it. Even if some emails don't make sense, it's like in total, it should still be worth it.
They've changed this a lot in the last week. Look at this. Look how different this looks. Crazy.
I'm struggling to see, is there a way for me to like maximize your screen?
Yeah, let me zoom in.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Yeah,
Does
that's
that
actually, yeah, that helps a lot.
Yeah, I have a bad habit of doing that. Normalize name of this product. So let's go over to filter list of objects. I believe it's the 4th one. Filtered array. Let's go here. What? Email. This thing losing its mind? Okay, this one's working. Why isn't... Okay, no worries. Okay, we're having a
I see you added the TikTok content prompt as well. That looks like
yeah, I
pretty
made the
good.
TikTok, and it's actually doing a great job. We can go into that after. I was pretty happy with that one. I do a lot of these content ideas prompt. There's something wrong with the table. It's actually not displaying the information inside those cells right now. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to use the AI generated version of the product I put together. So highest rating response. And we'll go with that for now because it should do the same thing basically. Size or color, normalize as if you had to pronounce in a conversation with a friend, move any symbols. Yeah, that's great. That works. Yeah, so dashes, great. It contains, include company name. If contains, include company name. If it contains slash.
And I'd probably also switch off the, like I know you were mentioning before, including the company name within the product.
Oh, you prefer not mentioning it?
I'd probably switch it off just because I may actually use a company name within the copy, and then I'm like double.
Okay, do not include slash company name in your output. This is very important. And you'd be surprised, but doing things like this actually improves your responses oftentimes.
Like my job relies on this.
So in that case, I would say, yeah, my job relies on this. In that case, I would say keep to 2 to 4 words instead, just because we're removing that company name aspect. Yeah, you need to fill in for this sentence. Have you guys tried selling product normalization on TikTok? Ensure grammatical correctness in the confines of the sentence provided. Output, product normalization, and product normalization. Output product normalization only. Do not output the entire sentence. And then after this, what I would do, and just so you know of how I go about prompting AI, is I do something like this, and then I iterate below this. Based on the hallucinations I see, I'll say, do not, do not, do not, do not, and slowly add on to that, okay?
Okay, that makes sense, yeah.
So let's make sure we're not using something we don't want to use. Okay, GPT-4 Mini. Dude, I ran an entire table once on GPT 4.0 and I spent $600 in like 2 hours.
I didn't know the difference between mini and like just normal full. At first, I was like, fuck, I can't use AI. It's gonna be like so expensive. It's not worth it. But I realized that mini is like extremely cheap. Like it's literally like $1 for like 1,000 less.
So this is actually already doing a pretty good job.
Yeah,
Your
all of
Patak
that looks.
backpack. Yeah, this is doing an okay job.
I'd
Things you
probably
might want
try
to
to
add
get
to
rid of
it.
the colors. Like I probably like the turquoise sunglasses, stuff like that. I'd
Oh, these
probably
are
try.
tortoise.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so it's
I
not
thought it
color.
said turquoise. Okay,
So
yeah,
the thing I was
that
going to
can
say
work.
is that you can look to exclude or include is get it to make sure it's mentioning the item. Because right now, Vital Seamless, this is a Gymshark item. This is a seamless top. So I might like strain the AI to make sure that one of the words is the item itself. And then I would give examples, right? So the
Yeah,
last
like
step to
more.
really perfecting this is going through these good answers and making sure these good answers are provided as examples. So I would say Batak backpack, great answer. Tortoise sunglasses, great answer. Full orbit eye cream, probably a perfect answer, right? And then
Yeah.
the last thing I would say is don't get too caught up oftentimes on getting the normalization of this perfect via your first prompt. If, say, you wanted all of these to be not capitalized, but you want to make sure that RSO1 stays capitalized, for instance, like in an acronym, this is clearly an acronym, I would do a
Yeah.
second prompt to keep acronyms capitalized and remove capitals from the rest. If you wanted
Yeah.
that, right? That's just another way to
No.
make language more conversational. I don't tend to do it, but I just wanted to say again, don't clog one prompt with too many things.
Yeah. Okay, I will
Cool?
do.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
there's
do you
there's a
think
good
it helps
starting
a
point
lot?
for you.
Yeah, it's a good starting point. Do you think it helps a lot, like feeding it like a lot of examples?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
But make sure each example is your perfect example. Don't settle for a decent output, settle for your perfect output. And again, dude, you're doing a great job for one huge like hugely successful business right now. And that means you have the time to really optimize and hone in on one type of workflow. It's
Yeah.
worth your time, right? It's worth your time to go through and make sure that each
100%. Well,
example is
and
good.
the workflow can be used for any e-com agency or SaaS, so it's like
Yeah, moving
super.
forward, exactly as you add to that
Yeah.
kind of client pool. So yeah, let's go into the TikTok content ideas generator. So the way you get good ideas to be generated is you need to give it good ideas to work off of in the first place. So there's a way I like to describe this. So there's things you do and then adapting the idea to the brand. So our goal is to basically come up with like these UGC types and give it to them. So unboxing experiences, product testimonials, transformations, how-to guides, right? And basically
Yeah.
take all the very best, and you're going to change this, and I know you are because you're going to change it based off the type of things that your client offers and their
Yeah.
unique selling points. And basically, you just want to give it these unique selling points. And I think this should say 8 content ideas. Actually, I think I removed 2. And you're going to get it to generate outputs that make sense in the confines of this particular business's functions. And the way you do that is you provide it with product titles. So it knows the types of products that are being sold, and it can potentially mention the products in these outputs. Now, how could you make this more accurate? Well, you could normalize more of these products and basically rerun that prompt on multiple products where it normalized the way the product is communicated, like the product name, and give it to this prompt to make it a little bit clearer, right? So let's save and don't run, and let's look at some of the outputs. Let's expand that. Oh, I've expanded it too much. Now I won't actually open in the other way. 1 second here. There we go. So unbox the Glossier Mini Beauty Bag and share first impressions in ASMR. Before and after using Balm.com to show hydration difference on lips. Day in the life using Glossier. You look good set for effortless glow. So calling out a product name very clearly, adding a content idea to the product name, and it just outputs it in a very tight number of words. And the way you increase creativity on this is you increase the amount of words it's allowed. And one key here is to make it conversational. What you tell the AI to do is to output it in point form as if you're not writing a grammatically correct sentence.
That's definitely gonna work well. Yeah, because my offer, just to give more context, it's like specifically affiliate creators. So like I can definitely get pretty creative with the way I
Yeah,
prompt to give it ideas of like what kind of content they can make. So definitely going to be
So you're
helpful.
giving it as many idea templates as you want, and it just needs to use those templates. Where
Yeah.
people get really messed up with content idea generators is they're like, go out into the World Wide Web and just find marketing ideas for me. No.
Yeah.
I want
You
you
need
to
one
use
that's
these
awesome.
ideas and make them perfect for this business, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just comes back to, again, I like to work in fundamental thought when it comes to working with these tools. You have a huge web of information that you're accessing every time you work with a large language model. Your goal is to figure out how narrow you can get into focus on one aspect of that web, and that's where you'll get your best outputs.
Makes
That's all you
sense.
need to
Yeah.
think about. How do I get as narrow as possible? And your prompts will be 100 times better.
Okay, sweet.
Awesome. So yeah, that's the basically last thing. Again, and then I put together a prompt for you that I use. This is my job title cleanup prompt.
Awesome.
I tell it it's a LinkedIn title because that's actually where the titles come from for Apollo, like 99.5% of the time. I will give you a LinkedIn title that needs to be clean, so that only contains the job title. And basically, the gist of this prompt is that there's a bunch of examples because examples are the only way to get this to do a good job. And I give a variety of examples. And anytime you encounter a new example that breaks your prompt, you just add that example in, right?
Yeah, I've already basically done exactly that, but yeah, I'll definitely have a look at your prompt. It's probably
So
better.
yeah,
So
if you're
I'll
having
need to.
issues, one of the things I try to do is I try to tell it that it needs to only output one job title. It needs to output the most important job title, and it needs to remove symbols and unnecessary language. And then I give it examples of what that looks like in context. So what I like it to do is no one's ever going to fucking write chief executive officer. I actually tell it
Yeah,
to turn titles into acronyms where it makes sense. Senior vice president, SVP, director of growth and content marketing, director of growth, right?
yeah,
And this has worked great for me, and I rarely have to adjust it. I think I had to adjust it for the gaming industry because I kept getting like stupid like self aggrandizing
yeah. I
basically
can imagine.
bullshit
Yeah,
headlines that were showing up. I don't know, best Halo Reach master of the universe, like some bullshit. So yeah, this should work pretty well for you. Feel free to make little adjustments, but that's a good baseline for you.
okay, awesome. So I mean, yeah, just to go over the stuff again, it's like the main things was about getting like the disqualified brands out of the list.
Yep.
And I think that's definitely going to help with the store traffic. It was about personalizing, and I definitely think those two prompts are going to work well. So I'll obviously just test it out and see if it makes a difference. I think what also may work really well is using it in follow-ups. That's kind of what I'm thinking right
I do
now.
ideas as follow ups almost
Yeah,
always. Look, I
yeah,
did a little bit more research. Let me know if there's someone better
yeah.
to share this with, right?
Yeah, no, I can imagine that works well. So I'll play around with it. And then in terms of, I'm just going through the sheet here, expanding TAM recycling leads. Do you have any other recommendations on expanding TAM other than, or specifically within ecom, other than waterfall enrichment? I've stopped using like store leads to Apollo to Clay workflow, and now just going straight from Apollo to Clay, and basically like using I may start using store leads within Clay.
Yeah,
So do you have any
I
other
was gonna say it's
recommendations?
free to use in Clay.
Yeah.
I
Do you have
figured
any
you're
other?
already doing that, but yeah, your store leads API is free to use in Clay. So if you have store leads, just connect that and you'll be able to verify if it's a store pretty well. Store leads has non-stores in it too, though. So you'll still have to do the
Yeah,
same things
yeah,
basically,
they
but
do.
get a little extra information there.
Got
One
other
other thing
stuff.
to expand TAM, man, and I think we may have discussed this on our last call. When you are looking for companies to pull, are you basing it off where the company's located or who the company sells to?
Company located, and I can only do US and UK because it's only like place that TikTok Shop allows.
So instead of doing that, have you considered doing where the company ships to? You will immediately expand your TAM a ton if you just say, I want companies that ship to UK, I want companies that ship to US, because they
But the
need to
actual
market to all
company
those
has to be
companies.
registered within like the US or UK. It's just like their guidelines.
In order
Not
to
about,
open up their TikTok shop.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like unfortunate for now, but right now I'm prohibited
Oh,
to only those two regions. But
wow.
it's
That's
still a
so
pretty big
weird.
town, to be honest. I mean, like it's pretty big. I guess the question I have for you is like at a point I'm gonna have to start recycling leads. It's probably getting close now because I started with the niches that I knew would perform the best, like
Yeah.
supplement, skincare. Now I'm gonna have to go into fashion, which will be pretty big. But like at that point, I'm probably gonna want to start recycling those top performing niches like supplements and skincare. Do you have any recommendations in terms of that? How often do you kind of would you say it's fine to recycle the leads? And is there like any best practices in terms of doing it?
Just before we get into that, I just want to clarify one last thing on this table that I forgot to mention
Yeah.
because you mentioned qualifying.
I also just
Um,
want to say I appreciate you setting up the table beforehand as well. It's going to be massive benefit to me.
yeah, I'm not a huge believer in consultations that are just information based, but what I did for you is I put together like a cheaper way of doing what you're already doing. One of the beauties of doing beautiful things of doing multi-step prompting is that because we're classifying the industry, we can immediately know who's food and beverage. So if you have a list where you're getting non-food and beverage brands showing up, you can just take action on the food and beverage brands to do that final disqualification of ones that are selling spirits via this prompt. And we don't need to go too deep into it, but that'll make it so you can
Yeah.
filter those out
Okay,
with do
awesome.
not contact.
I see you even
Um,
added a full sales.
exactly, yeah. Um, And also, when it comes to recycling lead lists, maybe the best thing would be for you to walk me through what you're thinking you should do, and I can tell you if there's any gaps in that thinking.
Okay, well, I guess like there's a couple different questions. I guess first of all, like how long until I can hit the same lead again without like really being a prick and hurting deliverability as well. Like
Yeah.
I've heard some people say, because obviously it depends on how big your market is, because some people have tiny markets and they have to recycle like every 2 weeks, I've heard. But I mean, would you say if I do it every 2, 3 months, perfectly fine?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, you can do it even every month if you really want to.
Okay, awesome. And I'll just
Especially,
change the copy slightly. And I'll obviously, like right now, I don't have an integration with Clay in terms of inbox management. So I'll have to like manually kind of add leads to the do not contact list.
yep. What you're going to do is you're just going to make sure that you add all not interested, all closed one, I would call them, so meetings booked, and then all closed lost. Like make sure that you're not recontacting anyone in a mass outreach manner, anyone that's responded but didn't book in. What you want to do with those leads is just set up a quick automation that will take all those leads, and every time you categorize them as a lost engaged lead, it goes to a Google Sheet for your client to upload to their CRM or gets pushed directly to their CRM because all those leads are still great leads and you want to contact them in a personal way. So your client's sales team is going to want to go through those leads and call them. They're going to want to
Yeah,
send them direct mail, right? They're going to
yeah.
win them in a very personal. Send them freaking flowers, like legit. That's
No,
how far they
that
want to
makes
go with
sense.
those leads, right? And yeah, just go through and make sure those are all blocked,
Pretty
archive or
much
delete the
everyone
campaign.
else other than out of office.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you'll just hit everyone else. And then all the not interested leads, keep tabs on them in their own Google Sheet because after a year, what you can do is you can actually remove them from the do not contact list by just uploading that Google Sheet and hit them again.
Okay, okay, awesome. Yeah,
Right.
I should hit those leads up again. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Um,
after a year, things change a ton, right? One of the other things I like to do, man, is I like to make sure I'm not blocking by domain if I'm not speaking to a high level position. So get in the habit of checking the position that responded. And if it's like a gatekeeper that gets you to the true decision maker, for instance, like say you're talking to a BDM, but they have a sales director on the team, right? Don't block the whole domain, okay? Just block that person.
yeah. Okay, cool. I don't know what it does right now. I just add like the emails. I'm pretty sure it just blocks the emails,
Are
if
you
I'm not
using
mistaken.
Smartlead?
No, I'm still on instantly.
Ah, okay. So in Smartlead, you get to choose what you do. You hit BL, and you get to
Okay.
choose whether you block the email or you block at the domain level. But yeah, that's the gist of it, man. You're just going through making sure you're blocking anyone that shouldn't be in the campaign anymore, archive or delete the campaign, and then throw the new campaign and new leads in. Make sure that you hit like really review the copy of that first campaign and try to hit on a new angle.
Yeah,
Try to
that
really
makes
hone in on a new
sense.
angle. Yeah, and then the final thing, let's see here. What's the last thing you would do? upload, and then of course, just for sake of saying it, I know you're going to do this anyway. Just make sure you revalidate.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
yeah, and revalidate, and then take any emails that show up as not valid anymore and check for newly hired people in the same positions, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because those are the main ones that are going to have new contacts that might be available to you. Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to overthink it too much at first. I mean, I don't know. I'll learn as
Well,
I
you were
go.
saying you want to expand your TAM. I'm trying to make sure you get as much data as possible, right?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it
And
100%.
then have you been
Um,
using BounceBand?
I've just been using, no, I haven't been using Bounce Band. No.
So
Should
if you use Million Verifier inside of Clay, which I do,
I?
you can
That's
take
what I
any catch-all email and you can run it through BounceBand as well. BounceBand works on a similar pay-as-you-go kind of formula.
I
Uh,
use it richly right now. I don't know if it's giving me terrible like data in terms of that. I don't know how familiar you're in richly.
I don't know how good Enrichly is, to be honest. What I can tell you is this. Almost every top agency owner I know in lead gen has moved to BounceBand. And the second thing I can tell you is that the API is blistering fast and it's pay as you go, which I really like. And I believe it's much cheaper than Enrichly last I checked. So
I mean, rich is pretty cheap. It's just more, yeah, I've noticed the bounce rate has increased slightly when I changed the workflow to include catch-alls.
yeah.
But
Yeah, you
I'll
will
have
get
a
slightly higher bounce rate. Anything over 1%, I would be a little worried about, but give it a go, is all I'll say. Give it a go. It's pay as you go, so you don't have the risk of like a monthly subscription fee showing up. Uh, and I like it because I literally just say if results is catch all for Million Verifier, please run. I'm not
yeah,
uploading lists anywhere.
simple. Okay, cool. I mean, I know I was pretty much done here, but I
Yep.
really appreciate all the help.